it is not hyperbolic to say that our fishing industry is in absolute crisis, predominantly because of how fish are. Once fish are caught and they have been processed, they have a very, very short shelf life. Indeed, if you look at how fish is bought and sold, the more fresh it is, the more closer it literally came out of the water, the more expensive it is, and it just gets less and less and less. Gets less and less more cheaper, shall we say. And because of this, fishermen are out constantly, pretty much non-stop. So since the start of Brexit, they very, very quickly realised that all these new rules that Boris Johnson brought in and said would be fantastic future for them, and fishermen would have unlimited catches for the fact that we as a country do not eat that much fish. But there you go. They have been in absolute crisis since then, and even now they are still in crisis. And it won't be long before it gets even worse, because when they start to say, well, we can't sustain this, we're going to have to sell our businesses, that's when even more trouble will start to arrive. But they aren't the only industry where trouble is starting to arise, especially with the farming industry and agricultural industry. Because predominantly for the first 3 to 4 months of the year, farmers really don't do much. But we are now starting to see signs that farmers themselves are going to start to complain, and complain loud. And first we are hearing from the dairy industry. Next we'll hear from the agri-industry that they can't get enough people to help them plant their fields. Then come harvest time, we will hear that once again they do not have enough people to help actually pick all their fruit and vegetables and all the other crops, and that will lead to food essentially rotting in the fields. We will then have the problem of that they then cannot sell their produce into Europe. And those articles are down the line, but they will happen sooner or later this year. I can guarantee you. I'm placing the call now. So, but like I say, today we're going to talk about the crisis in the dairy industry. So before we do jump into that, please do remember to hit that like, share and subscribe button. And of course, down below there is a link to my Patreon page and a one-off donation link called Buy Me a Coffee, where you can, well, buy me a coffee. And thank you very much to all the people who do support the channel that way. It is very, very much appreciated. So, today's article comes from the New European, and the title is How Brexit Has Turned Sour for the Dairy Industry. It has been another gloomy week on the sunlit uplands of sovereign Britain. The dairy industry has been among the biggest losers of Brexit so far, with milk and cream exports to the EU down by 96.4% year on year in February, and just about £900,000 worth of stuff made out of our former partners, perhaps compared with over the 24 million in the February of 2020. Meanwhile, cheese exports were down 65% year on year, and although that represented an improvement on the disastrous 85% drop in January, it's hardly reassuring for firms like Country Milk, the UK's largest privately owned dairy and ingredients-based business. Although the trade body Dairy UK claims that normal patterns of trade are returning as the market smooths itself out, the Country Milk's Phil Longso told The Guardian that it does not yet know the true cost of Brexit. What we are seeing is that it is substantially different and significant enough not to make exporting a viable number in a viable number of cases, he said. And with chicken and beef sales to the EU also down nearly 80% year on year, the Food and Drink Federation says that Brexit has cost British exporters more than 1.1 billion since the start of the year, a figure that didn't appear on any red buses during the referendum campaign. The trade body had urged Boris Johnson to sort it out by reopening talks with the EU, with Dominic Goody and the FDF's head of international trade saying exports to our biggest market and Ireland has also dropped by more than 2/3. UK businesses continue to struggle with inconsistent and incorrect demands at EU borders, and small businesses have been the hardest hit. Let's just go back to the idea of going back to Europe and trying to reopen trade talks. Well, first of all, that's not going to happen. Like I say, when you tend to sign trade deals, as we have done here, they are not only incredibly hard to get out of, but sometimes incredibly hard to alter. Because why does one side want to give up advantageous positions that is already agreed to? We are not only going to see this with the EU, but we are also going to see this with many other countries where Liz Truss has literally done trade deals at speed to essentially the detriment of British producers here. And of course, this isn't going to happen anytime this year. We saw from the botched Norway negotiations just a couple of weeks ago that the UK government does not intend to go and talk to the EU again until at least next year. So it's going to be a lot of pain for a lot of industries this year, I'll tell you that now, and even more long term. Anyway, he continues to say that it is essential that the UK-EU Partnership Council and its trade specialised committees are convened to urgently address these problems. This is something that Johnson has so far been unable to make room for in his busy schedule of asking donors to buy wallpaper and wrecking the union. The hope for Brexiteers seems to still be in the lost food and drinks exports to the EU will be replaced by non-exports to non-EU countries. At the moment, though, it looks a very tall order. Exports to the EU were down by 40% overall in February, compared to an 8.7% rise to non-EU countries. That is a loss of 421 million compared to a gain of 56 million. And Andrew Kinnock, the Director General of the Provisional Trade Federation, in which covers the dairy, meat and pig trade, says, if we are struggling to get into Calais, how easy is it going to be to get into Beijing or even Tokyo? Alas, while the PM milks his election victories, it looks like the cat has finally gotten out of got the cream in Hartlepool, and the outlook for the dairy industry is very, very sour indeed. So, again, not good news at all for our dairy industry. Pretty much very well predicted by us all this time. And bear in mind, this was not us saying this is going to cause a problem. All we were generally doing for the past couple of years is, okay, this is going to be a problem. How do you intend to solve this problem? And very often the answer was magical thinking, or that's just Project Fear. Well, once again, we are seeing that Project Fear is turning into reality, and that magical thinking and relying on fantasy products and sci-fi borders do not work. What we really need in the UK is genuine, actual, practical solutions. And one genuine, actual, practical solution would be for the UK to rejoin the customs union and the single market. That would solve a lot of these issues, because again, this idea and dream that somehow the Brexiteers had that, oh, it's all right because the loss of trade can be compensated for trading with these other countries. Well, unfortunately, it doesn't work that way, because not only does that cost money, but especially in food and drink, they're perishable goods. So the further you have to send something away, the cheaper it ends up selling on the other end. And again, not very good for British producers. So, as always, thank you for watching. Please do remember to hit that like, share and subscribe button on your way out. And of course, down below there is a link to my Patreon page and a one-off donation link called Buy Me a Coffee. And thank you to all those people who do help keep the channel going that way. And as always, we'll see you all next time.